This is Mentally Dope. Join us, Charmaine and Jasmine, two Black licensed therapists, as we build a bridge between mental health and Black culture. Come on, it's gonna be dope.
Hey guys,
Hey,
we are back. Mentally dope. Check one, check two.
welcome. Welcome
Here,
back to Mentally Dope.
another episode for you guys. I'm Charmaine,
I'm Jasmine.
and today we're gonna get real deep with y'all. We're getting real deep, talking about apologies. Why can we not apologize as Black people?
Why is it so hard? Why are apologies so hard?
I don't know. So, first off, let's start with some ways that I feel like that we apologize as Black people and say that they are considered apologies. Asking somebody if they want some food is not an apology. Listen, I don't know about you, but when I grew up, that's how I knew that my mom wasn't mad at me anymore. Like, she wouldn't say I'm sorry. She wouldn't like fix it. She would literally come out of the room and be like, "You want some food?
You want something to eat?
I'm
What you
going
want
to
to eat?
I'm going to the store. Do you want to go?"
Yeah,
That was like my way of knowing. Okay,
the
like
universal.
yeah, we're good. Everything's fine. So like I thought that that was the way that we apologized. I went all the way into adulthood thinking that like I could just fix stuff by being like, "So you want to watch TV?"
An apology is the question.
So like yeah, that was just like me. Like I thought that that's like how we fix things, how we got through. Um, and come to find out that that's not how you fix things, or that's not how you get through.
It's not the best way.
No.
It is a way.
Yeah.
It's not the best way.
Yeah. So asking people do they want food, not an apology. Saying I'm sorry that you feel that way, not an apology.
And we've all been guilty of it.
Yes.
All of us. We've all been like, I am so sorry that you're upset. And that's not an apology.
Yeah.
Not really.
I'm sorry that you took it that way. Not an apology.
I hate that you feel that way, you know? No.
Not an apology.
Not an apology.
And the hard part about this is that we learn as we get older how invalidating it is of other people's feelings or of your own feelings to even accept apologies that way. Because, like, we learn to accept them. And then that does not validate your feelings. It is not the other person taking actual accountability of what it is that they did. It just becomes a weak apology that is not actually solving anything. Yeah. And so then we're here. Of why don't we apologize? Why are we taught or not taught what apologies do? So
What is an apology?
So apology is actually something that acknowledges wrongdoing.
Okay.
It actually states that without a but. That's the biggest thing. There's not like I'm sorry that I did this, but it was your fault.
But you did X, Y, and Z.
Yes, I'm
so
sorry.
Really,
Yes, I only did that
I was
because
justified in what I did.
if you have to justify it, then you are no longer apologizing.
No, it's not an apology.
Yes, I always say like
It's not accountability.
Yes, if you're gonna apologize, just stop after the accountability part. Let's not go into this whole it's your fault.
But that's hard, right? That's a hard thing. Like, there's pride involved in that. There's ego involved in that of, like, I did something to you, and it's on me. I'm acknowledging that.
Yeah. I think it's also, and I don't know, like maybe it's just like the whole thing of we do not like to seem weak. And actually admitting that we did something wrong or harmed someone else is considered a weakness. Is that possible?
I don't know if it's harming someone else, but I think the need to be accountable for that feels weak for whatever reason. But the question is why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, why is it to be self-aware? You have to be self-aware enough for an apology, to be emotionally intelligent for an apology. Those are strengths. Why does it seem like a bad thing to be accountable for something that you did?
But I feel like that in our culture, that's not how we see those things.
No.
So if we're tying together Black culture and mental health, mentally dope. If we're tying together those two, then we're looking at the fact that in our culture, that's not really how we like to put those two together.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're looking at this as like, is it a weakness? Is it a weakness for me to say, I'm sorry? That's not really what I want to do. That feels uncomfortable. It feels vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing too. It's vulnerable because you're also giving something to someone and they can accept it or not accept it.
Mm-hmm.
They can acknowledge your apology or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's in itself is vulnerable. I think it also has to do with the words too.
Yeah.
I've met or like okay, I used to work with teenage boys, and one big thing for them is like I don't say I'm sorry. You don't tell no other people that you're sorry because it sounds like something negative. Like I'm a sorry person. That's different than saying I apologize.
100%. That's my thing too.
And that's definitely a
I will
cultural thing.
100% say I apologize before I say I'm sorry. My father actually taught me to not say the words I'm sorry.
It's a
because
very
it was,
cultural thing for
Yeah.
whatever reason, though.
I think that is definitely that's definitely a cultural thing that stands back to how we're looked at as people. And if we're already looked at in society as being less than,
Oh, so it says something about like who we are to say
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
if we're already looked at as like a less dominant society or whatever, or culture or whatever, then it's like we're not also gonna say I'm sorry too. That's not what we're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
No. And then we're also looking at too though, because you mentioned what happens after someone says I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
or like someone after someone apologizes. Can we receive that, or then does it just become awkward? Like this feels vulnerable, and I'm just gonna like make a joke and
Yeah.
just like tell you,
It's weird, right?
yeah, okay, girl,
If somebody apologizes to you, sometimes it's weird. Like
bye.
it's like,
Yeah.
because what if you don't want to accept it? Like, what if you're not mentally and emotionally ready?
Mm-hmm.
What if they didn't do it well?
Or
Like
what
they
if
gave you
you're
a-
not in a state enough to be vulnerable to accept it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like if you're not emotionally ready, like you haven't processed it, you haven't thought about it. Maybe you just want like space from them, and they're like, "I'm sorry," and you're like, "I'm not through this, so I can't give you nothing."
Or that you actually have to be in a response to actually respond back with your own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that.
Sometimes, depending on the situation,
Mm-hmm.
some people are gonna say it's okay, even when it's not,
Mm-hmm.
because they just want the conversation to be over. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Oh, it's okay. It wasn't okay.
It was not.
The narrator
So,
says.
Desmond, what is your idea of how an apology should look?
I feel like an apology, like you said, comes with accountability, right? You're apologizing for something specific.
You actually know what it is that you're apologizing
Right.
for.
What
That part.
and what part was hurtful to the person
Yes.
that you offended against, right? Like instead of just being like, "Oh my gosh, like I lied to you the other day," right? Which can be a good apology, but what if that person was really not upset about that part? It was the fact that they lied about this specific thing and you knew how close it was to my heart, right? So I'm saying like I apologize for whatever happened, X, Y, and Z. Like I noticed, I think something that also helps is like I noticed it really made you feel upset. Or like connecting those two things of like I see you. I'm taking accountability for what I see. Right? Or what we've talked about. For me that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And just like leaving it doesn't have to be a whole bunch of explanation, don't have to be all of that. It's just like, here you go.
I think the big part of that is actually, like you said, being self-aware, but also being aware of the person that you are apologizing to. Because you could be apologizing for something that they're not even upset about, or like there isn't even anything to be like, you know, they told you, I'm sorry that you went to the store and like da da da, and they're like, no, I was actually mad at you because you stole the car. Like
Right.
you weren't even listening.
Exactly. And so like what does that apology mean then? Because you apologize for something I just told you I was mad and you apologize for a reason that I was not upset.
Yes. So therefore, not saying that was not warranted apology, but you're not listening to me enough to be aware of my feelings, which once again brings us back to the whole situation of what are we doing here?
It doesn't get to the resolution,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're apologizing, I think also ideally you want a resolution, right? Like you want something to change, you want conflict to stop. You want there to be an end of the argument or whatever. And if you can't tap into whatever it is, whoever it is that you hurt, of why, then we don't get there. It's just almost like a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, just put a Band-Aid on it. Let's move on.
Yeah. So maybe that's once again today's word. The word of the day is vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Because apologizing, true apology, requires vulnerability. And accepting an apology also requires a level of vulnerability as well, too.
Yes. That's a word.
Is it going to
Both
be
ways.
uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Vulnerability is uncomfortable.
And if it's not, you're not doing it right.
Exactly. So, that to me would be the word that apologizing, it's hard for us because it does require us to be vulnerable. There is this negative connotation that for us as Black people that it's seen as a weakness, but also at the same time, we also look at how detrimental it can be to not validate each other, to not validate our own feelings, and how that can continue to create this negative cycle of how we do not know how to communicate. Like I said, I was grown, I was married, and my idea was that we could fight. And I was like, baby, you hungry? And he was
And
like,
that was it.
He was like, nah, fam. Like, something just
We're
happened.
going to talk about this.
I was like, wait, I don't understand. Like, you want us to do what?
I did the thing that we were supposed to do. Why we not moving on?
I came over here and I snuggled, and I thought that we were done. And it's like, no, we actually need to discuss this. And you have to be able to, like, hold yourself accountable. And, like, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it requires
vulnerability.
There it goes again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I have a question. I also think part of it is it's different strokes for different people as well. Like
different
some people,
strokes for different folks.
Yeah, exactly. So like what apologies are you not good with? Like is there a certain way somebody says it or some way that just like doesn't rub you right?
For me, it's always the but, and it's always the throwing it back on me. I'm sorry that you felt that way. I'm sorry that you took it that way. And then there's always the but. I apologize that happened, but I did it because of X, Y. No. Nope. You done pulled back the whole apology. You done pissed me off again. And now we're going to have a whole nother issue. Now we got to go into the fact that you done pissed me off because...
Now we lumbering things. Now we going into the things.
And I love the things.
Exactly. And you know, I really think it's funny.
Apology.
All of the things.
Yes. So that for me it is. It's very invalidating of my feelings for you to add the XYZ, to add the but, to add all of those things. I think it's also a trust factor because you have to be able to trust me enough to validate my feelings, say the apology, and then value our relationship enough to know that I would do the same thing back to you. And that's where the relationship comes back. I honor you, you honor me in all relationships in that matter.
Right. And I feel like it's that way across the board, right? Like that should be similar in your friendships. It should be similar in your romantic relationships. It should be hopefully similar at work, you know?
Yeah.
All
and
of
then
those
we
things.
also talk about the generational thing. Parents not being scared to apologize to their kids and say, I apologize that I messed up, and teaching their kids
that's
could be
a
whole
another episode. Because,
but teaching their kids that it's okay to admit that they're wrong, teaching them to say I apologize, and then
that's can we do an experiment? Like, can you comment down somewhere and tell me if you are from a generation where your parents apologized to you? I want to know.
I would love to know. And just see what that looks like.
And where that stopped. Was there a place where are you a parent now? Do you apologize to your kids? Where does that
does
stop?
it feel awkward? Does it feel awkward?
Is it hard to do? Yeah.
I apologize to my child. Yeah.
Okay, that's a whole
another
thing
was
we
a little
could
deep for us.
Deep into things. But okay, then I have another question.
Go ahead.
Would you accept someone being like, "Oh, my bad"? You know us. You know how we do. Oh, my bad.
Okay, so I think that this is also...
My B.
Yeah. My thing is that I think that this is also going back to the emotional intelligence of the person, kind of like that you were saying. The emotional intelligence, emotional vulnerability. I know that I cannot always force things on people that they're not ready for. So if I have relationships with certain people, I have certain friendships that I know that they're not going to be the person who can just come to me and like stand up and say, "Hey, Charmaine, I want to apologize for hurting your feelings." That's not going to happen. So if that person sends me a text and was like, "Okay, my bad about that," I'm gonna take it some days because
Right.
I'm just like, "Boo, that's probably
Exactly.
hard for
That's more
you."
than usual.
So that you did that was probably
Mhm.
a lot for you, and I'm gonna
Right.
take it because I know that you meant
Like
it.
that.
That's not an excuse
So
to like
like,
take it deeply for
yeah.
every relationship.
But like different strokes for different people. If it's that person that you know it's gonna be a fight, and for them that's already a lot. Like maybe you already know their history, or already know their stuff. We can settle with it. But if it's somebody maybe closer to you or someone that you know can do it,
Yes,
right?
you need to do better, and
Mhm.
I deserve better. So
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
that part.
I'm trying to think of what I've had before. I think I've had like, oh, that's on me.
Mhm.
Okay, and it what?
Mhm.
Like I need more.
And then for me, sometimes I'm like, "What's on you?
Mhm. What you mean?
What we doing?
I'm gonna ask a question. Oh, what you mean? What you apologizing for? What is it?
What? Yeah.
I'm
So
gonna act
no.
like I'm dumb. Tell me what
Mm-mm.
is it? Because we need more.
Yes. And we deserve more because once again, going back into like how that affects us in relationships, not validating those feelings just continues to build up. And then we will continue
Mhm.
to have these situations, and that's what happens when you in a relationship, a friendship, or whatever, and then something happens a couple months later, and you're like, "Oh, I remember this feeling. You don't love me.
Your
You don't
face
respect
right
me."
now.
I'm just saying, like,
You know. You are you flashing back right now?
I've been here before.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yeah,
And in all seriousness, like conflict in relationships, any kind of relationship, it's inevitable.
it is.
It's going to happen.
Yes.
Like people are going to disagree. There's going to be misunderstandings. There's going to be fights. Like all of these things. Like an apology is a way to make those things productive, right? If we're not sitting down at the end and being like, what went wrong? What went right? How can I like make this right? Then what's the point?
Yes.
We're just fighting to be
And
fighting.
even with your best efforts, you can still do something that is wrong, and you still need to validate that other person. Whether you meant to hurt them, whether you didn't mean to hurt them, whether you hurt them as a result of something that they did, you can still validate their feelings by saying, "I'm sorry that I did this.
Mhm.
I didn't mean to hurt you, but I'm
Ooh.
sorry that I did this."
That's a good question. What if you don't feel that you need to apologize?
My question is how important is that relationship with you with that person?
So that's the first question. Maybe they should ask of like, this person is really hurt over something I did. I feel like I didn't do anything wrong. But like, it's my girlfriend. So let's see if we can find some resolution.
If I care about my relationship with you and you come to me and say, "Charmaine, you really hurt my feelings when you did this,"
Mm-hmm.
I may have to think that I did nothing wrong. But regardless, you're saying that your feelings are hurt and you're saying that I did it. I need to apologize. And I need to like actually be mature enough to have the discussion with you to figure out what it is that happened with you and how we can rectify the situation.
So what's harder? Apologizing when you don't feel like you have anything to apologize for, or apologizing when you do have something to apologize for?
I think that both of them require a state of vulnerability, which is back to that word again. Because even if I think that I haven't did anything wrong, I have to be vulnerable enough to say I need to self-evaluate. Because I could have think that I was just doing quite fine.
That's a good point.
But if you're saying every time you leave the house and don't say bye, it hurts my feelings. Okay, well, I didn't think that was a problem. But now I need to evaluate. Don't laugh at my feelings, Jasmine.
No, this is really funny. So can I tell you about me? And maybe you can apologize, maybe you won't. I don't know. So I noticed that when you look, this is live action, people. Okay, let's see. When you hang up the phone, you don't say goodbye. You just be like, okay, click. And the first time you did that, I was like, oh, okay.
And you know what? I actually have this really bad. You can ask my best friend. I am notorious for hanging up, and she'll be like, "Bitch, I was still talking."
Right, but mid sentence. Say something.
So yes,
But now that I know you do it, I laugh every time we get on the phone because I'm just be like, Sheree's
the
crazy.
hard thing is that for me, it is finding that balance because with my loved ones, I don't mean like that you aren't a loved one, but like
yeah,
no,
but
with
like your family.
yes, I always say love you 1st.
Mhm.
So I have it really bad in my head.
But you just don't say anything.
I'll be ordering food, and and in my mind, once I go, love you, bye. So I have to remember.
So you have to break that habit by just being like, hang it up.
Okay, go. So for me, but that is
hilarious.
me. Like that is me acknowledging my own behaviors, also acknowledging how that could affect someone else. I'm not sure how that affected you emotionally, but it could have. Like that could
yeah, for
affect
some
somebody.
people, yeah. Like overthink that. Like, oh my gosh, is she mad at me? Like, why did she hang up on me?
I mean, especially when it comes to like ending situations. I was raised in a household where we did not say goodbye. Goodbye meant final. So anytime that anyone says goodbye to me, I get like really, really like in my feelings where I'm just like, why are you leaving me?
Oh.
So like we were always told to say see you later because that was not final.
I have a friend like that.
So like now as an adult, anyone who says bye, I don't like it. So therefore I tell my friends that, and they may think that they did nothing wrong, but please validate my feelings enough. Don't say goodbye to me when we're on the phone because I potentially have abandonment issues. I admit it.
Do I need to apologize for that? I think I say bye. I'm like, okay, bye. And I'm just like, okay, it's gone. Oh, okay.
But
I wonder if that's a cultural thing too. I know some black people are just like, we don't say goodbye.
Yeah, I don't know.
See you later.
So,
I'm like, okay.
That right there is an example of how it could have been. I mean, it could be a whole lot more deeper than that, but still, like also, like both of us being aware of each other's feelings. Neither one of us thinking that we've ever did anything wrong, but also identifying the other person's feelings, validating that, and then, if need be, adjusting our behavior for the sake of the friendship because it's not that deep.
Yeah, and there is a time to explain. I think there is a time for you to explain yourself, but I think first and foremost, it needs to be like, dang, I didn't even realize I was doing that. Like, I'm sorry. And then, like, when the other person calms down or they're ready to be like, well, this is where I was coming from when I did that.
Yeah.
Right? But, like, there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
The apology is not the time to be like, well, this is all my trauma, so really, like, I can't help it if I'm this way.
Get over it. And, and don't whisper the apology when you've been disrespectful. I need my apology to be as loud as disrespectful was. If you was real loud when you was talking all the X, Y, Z, I need my apology just as loud. Don't hit me with, okay, girl, I'm sorry. No.
That's something I made my students do too. Exactly. Yeah. If they diss somebody in group, or we have a group therapy, I'd be like, okay, well, you dissed them, you have to apologize in front of everybody. Like, you can't do something in public and then at the end be like, oh, sorry, all this stuff. No. Same kind of respect.
Keep that same energy, boo.
I always say that. Keep that same energy with the apology.
Yep.
We can do both.
Yep. So, learn how to apologize. Black folks, it's not scary. Please do not be scared of apologizing, but also acknowledge that if you are scared, it is vulnerable. But
for everybody,
vulnerability is part of what we're trying to do in order to be more emotionally well, keeping our mental health up,
and preserving relationships.
And the key word to this is staying mentally dope.
Oh, I was like vulnerable. I was like, I know this one. So, okay, last question.
Yeah.
Apologizing, well, it's not a question, but I guess it's a statement. Apologizing is a skill. So if you are bad at it, or you know somebody that's bad at it, like, all is not lost. You get better at it. You practice it.
Practice.
Right? Like, you build that vulnerability muscle, and they will get better and better.
Yep. So, guys.
Take that.
This episode was all about apologizing. And as always,
stay mentally dope.